welcome to the Best Places to Lead. I am your host, Jerry McNamara, and I'm grateful for you guys being here or for pressing play. Listen, we're on a mission to positively impact 5 million people over the next 5 years. And so as we start to close out 2022, we close out the first year of the mission. And the thing that I'm always reminded of is that I've never met anyone who has shown up to work and said, you know what, I really want to suck today. And yet there's so many people that are ineffective in their work, and it's not their fault. It is the leader's fault. And so it's why I'm working with CEOs, the C-suite, leaders inside organizations to create compelling companies, because compelling companies always outperform. And I imagine a world where people are wholly engaged in their work, because if you are good at work, you can be great at home. And if you're good at home, you can be great at work. So I imagine a world of more smiles, people who are their very best selves in all aspects of their life. And so that's why we're here to learn to lead better. So today's guest, go ahead. We're going to give it to Sebastian Schieke. Did I get it?
Yes.
All right. Yes. So Sebastian, awesome. Sebastian is an entrepreneur from Germany, and he ran a consultancy for 22 years. That he had a successful exit on. He is now an investor inside companies and advises CEOs. And the reason that I wanted to have Sebastian on the show is there's a very cultural difference between how we approach relationships in the United States and how European people approach relationships. And
business relationships, huh?
Business relationships, for sure. And so I think there's some real insights that we can get as we have this conversation. So Sebastian, thank you for coming and being willing to share your insights with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's awesome. It's a great format. I like it.
One of the reasons why I thought this was really interesting, Sebastian, was very early in my career, I helped run a soccer retail company. And we had a bump in the road. And our suppliers here in the US, from Nike and other places, they made it difficult for us to do business. Mm-hmm. And we had a European supplier by the name of Kelme. And Kelme was run by Juan and Vicente. And they stood right by us. And in a world where I came to learn that partnerships meant, please buy more shit from us, it wasn't really a partnership. They were the shining example of people who really did care about us, cared about our business, understood that there would be bumps in the road. And I think that's the unique aspect of the conversation that we can have today. And so as you look at the 22 years of running your own business, now advising CEOs, what does it mean to build a relationship in a European market?
Yeah, let me start with a story. I was part of a couple of transformational programs from the US, typical coaching programs. And they did an amazing job in selling the program. Yeah. So, a challenge model or something else. And then after a week, they closed maybe 110K tickets. And for me as a German or European, I would say, this is amazing. Yeah. This transactional view, this closing these deals in this short period of time. And I thought, hey, that's actually something we Europeans could learn from. Yeah. Because for us, normally it takes much longer to close a deal because we have a more long-term focus. So I joined this program and obviously took a lot out of it. But then after the 6 months or 8 months period where the initial program was basically supposed to end, they didn't try hard to keep us there. They only focused on signing up new clients. Yeah, but I said, hey, there's so many people who are sort of happy with the existing program, or maybe not happy, but they didn't ask, they didn't call you. They run a few events and asked to re-engage, to rejoin, but there was no exit interview, nothing. So the first program I left, then I went into the next one, and it was even worse. I was working with them for 9 months, and I know the CEO and a very good relationship with them on a personal level. And I knew that this program was supposed to end. It was a 15K mentorship program. Yeah? And I know there was something coming up, and I didn't really know exactly the time. And then suddenly one day, a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to log into the program and check a few things, and I didn't have access anymore. And I said, what's that? Why is my access not there? So I was looking and I figured out I'm being kicked out of the Facebook group, and then I was going through my emails. I was basically searching, putting in the name of the company in my Outlook to get me all the emails. And then suddenly I saw that they sent me 3 automated emails. Hey, dear Sebastian, your renewal is coming up. So how are you doing? 2 weeks later, hey, dear Sebastian, do you want to book an appointment with our account manager to talk about your renewal? And then there was an email, hey, dear Sebastian, tomorrow is your last day. So to let you go, maybe you can leave us a recommendation. Boom. and then they kicked me out. 15K program. And I just thought, how can this happen? I mean, why is not anyone reaching out to me personally? I mean, if I don't read this email, because these emails, they end up in some folders, I mean, I get so many emails. I have a system which puts all these news emails in a certain folder, and no one was reaching out. No one was trying to contact me on different channels. I mean, there's next to email, there's social. You could even pick up the phone, somehow try to get in touch with the client and ask them, do you like to maybe stay in our program? What did you get out of this program? Did you enjoy it, And it is really, I mean, honestly, this really pissed me off. I mean, I talked to the CEO and now I advise them how to rearrange this process. Yeah. But this whole experience, I thought, hey, this is so wrong. I mean, you have all these clients, you spend a lot of time and effort in signing up, and you just let them go. Yeah. I mean, you should, sorry?
I think you're right. Like it, when it's transactional in that process, I think you miss the backside of all the hard work that it took to get to traverse know, like, and trust,
yes.
Right? For someone to say, yes, I will give you whatever it is your program is. Here's my credit card. And yet we know that, right? There's a PricewaterhouseCoopers survey that said, okay, people who are nurturing their clients forward, they're able to charge 16% more than new transactions coming in. And I think that's like, there's just really good data behind nurturing people, being good in a relationship, and yet we're very transactional. Talk to me about the approach, that you had in running your own consultancy. How did you nurture relationships forward that might be a little bit different than how we do it here in the US?
Yeah, I mean, for us here in Europe, especially before the pandemic, it was a lot of personal interaction. So you met with people for lunch, you had a beer in the evening with your clients, and you went there for regular meetings in the office and really stayed in touch, constantly reached out. And I think what is important is that when you work with a client, really ask them, make sure you understand, do they really get value out of your service? Do they really, I mean, like when you're part of a mentoring program, is there really a transformation happening with the client? Is there some accountability? I mean, we probably all been there, you buy a program, we are really engaged and happy to start. And then after a while, you sort of drift off and you lose your focus and do something else, then you basically invested lots of money and you didn't take anything out of that. Yeah? And it's a job of the program host to check in with you and to ask you, okay, are you getting value out? If not, what can be changed? Yeah. Because only people who get value out, they renew, and which is even more important for you as a business, they can refer you to new clients. Yeah. They can say, hey, this was an amazing program. I made so much progress. Why don't you join? And if you don't do this, you miss out on these two important things: renewing you as a initial client and maybe getting new business, which doesn't cost you anything, because your happy customer is referring you to someone else. Yeah, and in Europe, I mean, initiating a business relationship takes takes much longer, in my experience, than obviously in the US. We have more meetings. We need to build more trust. The client requests more information. They do cross checks and so on. And it's a longer process, but I would say it's a more stable one, yeah, because it has more legs to support this whole endeavor.
Do you have a framework that you use in building the relationships as you go through that? Have you ever actually gotten really intentional and said, here's how I'm going to engineer the relationship? It is, from awareness to attention to desire to, in my opinion, community is the highest place that you can get to from a marketing point of view, because like you said, it's a referral business, and now suddenly it becomes a virtuous cycle of the people who are there do your marketing for you.
Creating raving fans, really people who are so, I mean, you always have to over deliver, provide more value than they expect. And this will blow them off, this will really make them a client who is seeing more than this initial business relationship in you. They're seeing that you can really help them, bring them to the next level. I mean, there's a process which, as you mentioned, you start building an awareness with the customer, that they know what you can offer, that they start to get you to know. And then there's a lot of steps where you need to build this trust, this initial trust, which will help him to open up and to really engage with you in the long run in a business relationship. And then once you started working with them, I think it's very important to constantly check in, to constantly make sure that the value you provide is really creating something for him, and that he's successful. They need to be successful in the end.
When you think about this, Sebastian, I'm always curious about this. When you start talking about relationships, is that a marketing function? Is it a sales function? Is it a customer success function? Is it a management function? Who should own that relationship as you go through, in your opinion?
In the end, everyone who's dealing with a customer has to own his own relationship with them, Everyone has to build a relationship. Every support person who is out there. And what happens in many companies, the lowest paid people are sitting on the front row on a customer service function, and they're dealing with our customers, with our important clients who bring the money into the business. There's something fundamentally wrong. Yeah. And
would you change that? Would you put different people or more seasoned people in the front lines of the customer success, customer service?
Of course, it's always a question about costs, but I think we need to optimize this process. We need to control it better, with more senior people. That they really support the frontline support crew to really provide the quality and to build the relationship with the customer. We can't just delegate this to an outsourced center somewhere in our area in the world. This is
although that happens all the time. I guarantee you that anyone who's on this call has sat on hold waiting for customer service with Verizon or Comcast and getting an Indian call center. And going through that process. It is a cost decision, but Don put in the chat, and it's really good, right? It's everyone through the whole process, because it can be the accountant people who are collecting money in a relationship. It could be the warehouse people. I'm thinking about a business that I was involved in Toronto that was a B2B play. We had cards that every warehouse person signed to say, I personally packed this and thank you for your order. And it was something that, was a little touch, but it was kind of cool. People on the other end really appreciated, hey, Travis packed my order. Can you get him on the phone for me? Because I have a question about something. And, you talk about personal relationships that people can have, in that environment. It's different than the way in which it's engineered at perhaps some larger companies.
And when you have a personal relationship, then for the customer, it's harder to switch the supplier, because, hey, I know Maria, I dealt with her many times. So when I now go to company B, then there's someone else which I don't know. So maybe I stick with the people I know. And I think we shouldn't only see the initial costs, you should see it more on the long term, I think in the long run, you will be more successful in engaging, in keeping your customers and growing the business. Then, I mean, you always have to start from scratch, you know, you have to get new customers in, sell them something, deliver, then they're gone and you have to start again. And I just think that it's stupid.
I thought this statistic was really interesting because, you know, to your point, if you continue to churn customers, right, it's the effort to bring new ones in is just so tiring. And
It's
I thought this was
expensive.
really interesting. A 5% increase in customer retention can increase a company's revenue by 25 to 95%.
Mm.
And as I sit there, I think about, well, that makes sense because when we retain clients, not only do they buy more often, they buy more dollars worth per order too. That's what the statistics, you know, share with us. And so it just seems so common sense that we would put a lot of time, energy, and effort into this. And yet I find companies leave this to chance all the time of what a good relationship looks like.
But why are the business culture in the US so transactional? What is, in your opinion, the background? It's just interesting for me as a European to understand.
I think it's super interesting as well. I mean, I look at companies right now, like Meta just laid off 11 or 13,000 workers. They have a very healthy business. They have a very healthy balance sheet. And I think they're answering to shareholders to contract, to shed a bunch of costs, and to continue to try and be more profitable. So there are relationships not only with our customers, but if I'm sitting in that company, I'm wondering, if you're willing to do that now, even though the business is doing really, really well, if I'm sitting inside Twitter and I'm one of the 7,500 people that are still there, but have to respond today to Elon's message of, are you willing to work harder and longer out? And it's going to be really hard. Click this button if you're still in. I look at all of those things. I mean, I just think those command and control, like I think of Tom Vranis, he was on the show, but I think maybe episode 20 or so, you know, he talked about his change as a leader and needing to be less command and control. What I could do 15 years ago as a senior leader doesn't work today. And I think I still see people operating their businesses, and now I'm becoming one of them. So it always scares the shit out of me that I'm becoming the old white guy. And I try and stay relevant. I'm trying to stay as forward thinking as I can and kind and humble and all of those things. But I am that guy. I'm 48. I'm becoming the old white guy in the room. And so this is always top of mind for me in how do we make sure that we're staying relevant? Because the world has shifted. You look at the Edelman Trust Report. People are choosing companies for purpose and impact. And it's not necessarily like, let me go make as many dollars as I possibly can. Yeah, that's important. We got to put the shekels in the bank. But at the end of the day, if I don't feel good about the work that I'm doing, then it doesn't stack up.
You know, I have my own podcast, and I interviewed a guy today who runs a company, and they're selling screens, big screens or small screens. I mean, screens to bring information to people who are not sitting in front of a computer screen all day. And he said this shocking number that 80% of the workforce are not knowledge workers. 80% are obviously doing all kinds of different roles. And we all live in our bubble, you know, we are constantly bombarded with information and constantly having Slack, Teams, whatever. But yeah, a huge portion of the people are not getting this information, which means that no one is engaging with them. You know, no one has there's not this, they don't have this channel of keeping them up to date and giving them information about the company and so on. They really create this difference in these companies when, for example, they put in a big screen in a big hall where maybe they show the employee of the month, you know, or someone who is there for 5 years and give them some kudos to why they are here so long. And he said that creating this purpose is so important to engage with your employees. And I think this is so important nowadays. Yeah, I mean, not only for the client but also for the employees, because so many people are so disengaged. And as you said, they, I mean, you in the US, you have this phase where people left their job in the last 2 years. There was
Great
this
resignation.
great resignation. Exactly. Thank you. And then, yeah, why is it? Because people, they don't have purpose anymore. They're not connected to the organization. Maybe because
I think the point is they were never connected to the organization. We just sent everyone home for a long time and said, what's really important to you? Because we all sat in our houses and looked at each other and looked at our families and thought, is that really all there is? Work and I get a paycheck back, and like, why can't I be in a impact driven business, a relationship driven business where I identify with the mission, and all of that can come together. And I think in the past we've always thought about that as an either or scenario, and I think it can be an and situation.
It needs to be.
As you do that. I'd be interested, Bill, you have a really interesting context here. I'd invite you to come off mute, because you lived in Europe for 3 years, and you see how business is done in Europe, how business is done in the US, and you make a really interesting point. I'd love for you to share it.
Yeah, I was just saying that I found when I lived in Europe, and I was in the military, so I wasn't doing a ton of business transactions, but even like when I was trying to get like my car painted, I had a classic car there that was getting painted. I didn't just walk into a shop one day and say, hey, I want you to paint my car. I had to walk in there and establish who I was and why I existed at all. And then I would come back like 2 weeks later and say, how are things going? How's your calendar looking? And then it got like another 3-4 weeks. I was like, I'd like to book some time to get the job done. They're like, okay, that'll be in 5 months. And it was like, it took me a while to get to just having them do this job, which I knew that was going to happen. Whereas I think in the US, if I walked in to get a paint job, people are like, okay, let's sign him up today while he's here. And the other business, they weren't trying to just like hustle me into getting the job done. And I don't know, maybe the businesses have better financial continuity that they can take that time, whereas American businesses are always like looking at the month end and like, did we actually score a profit today? I think the shareholders demanding like, where's my money, where's my return on investment on American companies has a huge impact on how we as businesses operate day to day, because we're just looking for that transaction to put money in the coffer today versus 5 months from now.
Yeah, I think it's great context. And I remember seeing a statistic when COVID happened that most businesses have less than 30 days worth of operating cash on their balance sheet, which then, Bill, when you come back to it, it forces you to play the short game, because if your time horizon is 30 days, then I better make some shit happen to bring in more cash to make it to the next 30 days. And, that's a fine cycle when you start a business, but it is no way to continue to live your business, because you'll stay in stress for very long periods of time. It is not healthy.
Constantly in the hamster wheel. Yeah. I mean, you're going to have whatever, 6-7 months of cash, to be able to, survive a crisis or whatever is happening. Yeah. If you only have 30 days, then hey, I mean, what is crazy? Airlines, I mean, we had a time where we had some volcanoes going off in Europe. So all the planes couldn't fly. And airlines, they even have less time span. They have maybe a week or so before they get out of business when they can't fly. So it's kind of short time frame.
Bill, as you compare and contrast that as a consumer, was that an enjoyable experience for you, having to build a relationship to get something done, compared to in the US, you would walk in and they'd say, yeah, great, we'll get you in, might be 3 weeks, but we're going to get sold right then and there.
I appreciated it personally because I don't like a hard sell, but some people can respond well to that. It's just not I do not go lightly into expending my money. When I'm spending it, I'm spending it efficiently, is how I like to say it. I'm not cheap, but I need to know that it's going where it needs to go and it's going to be well spent. And so having that time, even not just for them to evaluate me, but for me to evaluate them and get comfortable with the work that they're going to do. I got to go in their shop a couple times and see if their work is getting turned over, see the quality of the work that they're doing on different jobs. And all of a sudden I was like, I felt comfortable with them as a business as well. And it's like what Sebastian was alluding to, is that having more legs on your foundation before you actually pull the trigger on a transaction.
Mm.
And I will just challenge you, Bill, because I have seen the garage mahal that you have built from the ground up. It's pretty impressive, but there's a couple shekels that went into that.
Yes, but I took my time, and it's going to be there for a very long time. And I'm going to be here for a very long time.
I mean, it's not always like that you really have to, as a client, build this long-term relationship. I mean, at the moment, we have a situation here in Europe where they're probably similar in the US, that many people left their job, during the pandemic. And now there's a big shortage in many areas, many areas like restaurant, waiters, some shop assistant, people doing repairs at home, painters and so on. Yeah? This is really interesting because so many people, they left their job and no one knows where they went. No one knows what they're doing. Yeah. I mean, I'm talking to so many people. So at the moment, things really take a long time to get sorted out when you have a problem, because there are no people anymore. Yeah. This is
True.
Fascinating. I don't know if this is the same in the US, but here in Europe, this is really causing us big issues right now.
We are seeing it in every service industry,
Mm.
hotels, restaurants. Yeah. It is difficult to get service. There's many signs that just say, we are short-staffed, please be patient, or please go elsewhere. And, I appreciate that on the upfront, gives the expectations and the clarifications. Sebastian, is there in your history any great stories that you have where you nurtured a relationship for some period of time and it ended up paying off big for you?
Well, I mean, I have a client I started working for in the year 96, and I still do business with them, I mean, we started small. Yeah, it was small assignments, but I always kept in touch. I always nurtured the relationship. And this has been over the lifetime. It was a multi-million-dollar client for me. And this wouldn't have worked if I would have gone in, done the business, and then just went off, Sometimes you also have to step back, and sometimes you also have to slow down, and not oversell the client to really build this long-term relationship. It's just how I'm wired.
Yeah. Isaiah McPeak, who was here in episode 29, he was talking about the sales process and relationships and how to nurture relationships. Mm-hmm. He actually even broke it down in a diagram, which I thought was awesome. Better on YouTube. So if you're going to watch it, you watch it on YouTube. But, he was talking about the give and take in a relationship, that I have to make the next logical step. So if you share with me a little piece of information, I've got to reflect a little piece of information back until we have this ping pong match where you're elevating up. And I find, that's indicative of Bill's experience, right? It took a little bit of time going back and forth and slow. Whereas, I think we had a chuckle about it. It's like in the US being at a bar at 2:00 and, asking a girl out on a date. Well, it's very transactional at that point in time, right? And so, that's going from 0 to 100 miles an hour, whereas, you're building a relationship back and forth in doing that. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, right? It took you in 96. It was a small assignment. Do you find that nurturing clients, that intention matters? Like, I'm thinking back to your initial story, and all they were really interested in was renewing you. They weren't thinking, did we create value for you, Sebastian? How can we help you more? And I find that more and more, like, yeah, you can set up an automated sequence and ping people, but if it's in a transactional mindset, then it's not very good. If it's service people, then it's valuable. Do you find that?
Yeah, you have to be intentional. I mean, first of all, when you provide something, you really have to want that they are successful. I mean, if you only focus on cashing in the money, of course, you only focus on the next sale. But if you focus on, does my client really gets results? And often, as I said, I mean, often we engage in something and then other priorities arise, and then we lose focus and we move on. And we sort of forget that we have this program which is designed to create value for us. Yeah. So if there's no accountability from the program host, then it's very easy to drift off. So this accountability part is very important, I think. This accountability part helps the client to see and experience the value and does the transformation. So this is the first thing. And then, of course, when you showed the client that you care, when you showed the client that it's actually in your interest that they create some value out of it, then they're also happy to stay in the program, or they are even more happier to refer you to someone else. And you have to this is a mindset thing.
It is the mindset thing, right? I think, Dawn's dropping gold here in the chat. In a world full of sprinters, we need more marathon runners, right? And I find that to be so indicative. Companies or people constantly searching for the short-term hack. Yes. And the hack is go do the work, right? I mean, that is the hack.
Exactly.
Neurophysiologically, we go from crawling to walking to running for a reason. That is the way we are wired. You can't just go sprinting. It doesn't work. And so I think
we always want instant results.
I took this program yesterday. It hasn't worked yet, but it was the 6-minute abs. I still do not have my abs yet. And so I'm very disappointed. So today I started the 5-minute ab program, and I'm certain they're going to pop up very, very shortly.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, when I look back when I was young, I grew up in East Germany, in the communist part of Germany. And back then, I mean, we had 2 TV channels. We had a few newspapers. That's it. I didn't have a telephone at home. I'm also not my friends. So whenever we wanted to meet up, I actually had to go to this person, knock on their door and say, hey, Jerry, you want to play out? Want to play? And it was such a slow life. Yeah. And you didn't expect these immediate successes and these immediate results. No? And now it's boom, it's you really ask yourself, okay, what have I done today? I mean, so many things happening, and it's a complete different. Sometimes I ask myself, how did we end up in this world?
I'll show you how we ended up in this world, because I know it's called this thing right here.
Yeah.
Right. And always on society. And I think it's fun. We just moved to a new house, and there's some young school friends next door. And it's kind of fun that my kids will just run next door and knock on their door. I'm like, that's the way I used to do it.
Yeah,
I didn't have to text the parents and organize the play date and what time will you be there? What time will you pick up? It's like, no, just go outside and run around. Like, come on. But you trace the transformation of relationships. And this is just in my life, where you would meet to exchange documents. Like, oh, I have some paperwork that I need you to sign. We'll meet up. Then it was like, oh, do you have a fax machine? It's like, yeah, I have a fax machine. Let me figure out the number. And then you do that. And then it got to email. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to email it over. Let me know when you get it. It's like, oh, you want me to like hold on the phone and wait for it to like show up? And, now we have portals, and now we have text messages, and people don't answer their phone anymore. 95% of phone calls don't get answered. And even with the number, it's like, I'm not going to talk to Craig Besky this week. Maybe
just
next
text me.
Text me. That's right. I was watching the relationships. I don't know if we're evolving or devolving, right? I might lean on Summerlin Anderson on this one, because she's on the younger side of the crowd. but you watch people texting at the table with each other. And I mean, does that happen, Summerlin? Is that true?
That
Yeah,
was interesting.
it is true. Unfortunately, I wish that it wasn't true, but it is. I mean, I think that we're really involved with our cell phones these days, and it's just getting worse.
Yeah, I think it'll
I-
be interesting as we continue to evolve. I mean, I have a 6 and a 10-year-old, and I wonder what the quality of relationships will look like as we continue to, grow and evolve as a society. I mean, they do not know a world without cell phones or tablets. There's zero context. I mean, there was a song on the radio because my sister-in-law had borrowed my car and she had the radio on, which I never have on. And there was a commercial and Brooklyn was like, skip this, Dad. I was like, I can't, it's on the radio. And she's like, what do you mean you can't skip it? I was like, yeah, no, that's not the way it works. And so we don't have television in our house. So they only have streaming services. There's no commercials. They have no context of what a commercial is. Yeah. And when you look at those relationships, I think brands are going to have to continue to work harder to bring you into the awareness, attention, desire community and nurture you through that cycle. It's super important because, we're not going to
leave money on the table.
Yeah.
I mean, totally. It's a strong business reason behind it. It's not just some fluffy things, it's business success. It's sustainability of your organization.
There was one of my favorite podcasters and writers is Christopher Lochhead. I think he's a genius, Christopher. Anyway, he talked about like white space marketing. And I was like, very interesting. And he just said, make a list of all your clients and figure out what they're not buying from you that they might be able to buy from you. Mm-hmm. They've already crossed the know, like, and trust. They already have the brand, piece of it. And I just thought, what an interesting approach that you could do an audit on your current client list and help them in areas where you might be really strong that they're not currently participating in, whatever it is that you're selling them. And, that's just, again, coming back to a service-based place. Yeah, is it good for the business? Absolutely, it's good for the business. But it also strengthens the relationship and how you can service those people because you're not going to say like, oh, well, they're buying our best thing. Let's try and get them our worst thing and, compromise the relationship in that way. And so I thought his approach or his thinking in white space marketing was really smart in nurturing a relationship forward.
Yeah, this is really something you need to bring out into the world, it's something that they also have to teach this in business schools more intensively, I think. I mean, it's a mindset thing. It's something you have to believe in yourself as a business owner, and you have to push in your organization. Everyone in your organization should have the same thinking. They should have the same focus. And of course, I mean, you need to be a leader who deserves this title, yeah? I mean, as you mentioned before, we see these old school leaders destroying companies at the moment, which, I mean, those people who work at here, in this case, Twitter, I mean, those are all intelligent, high-skilled experts, developers, marketing people, and so on, yeah? I mean, and they are treated like machines, yeah?
So true in all of this. Sebastian, have you ever taken someone who's had a bad experience with you and used it to create what I call a magical moment, like that opportunity to raise my hand and say, you know what, I missed the mark, and transform the relationship into a deeper level? Have you ever had anything like that?
Of course. I mean, those things happen, I mean, I run an organization with 20 odd people, and there's always things falling off, there's always challenge problems happening, I mean, this is just the nature of the thing, but I think it's important to be proactive, to really reach out to the customer and start a conversation, and not blame anybody. Just start a conversation and focus on what went wrong, fix it, and again provide more value than the client expect. I mean, this is the simple thing. Yeah, you can do over deliver. They expect X, and you deliver X plus 10%, and boom, I mean.
But isn't that bad for the bottom line? I mean, we could charge them for the extra 10%. The 10% actually costs us something to deliver. Why not just deliver the that we?
I mean, it doesn't always cost you. It doesn't always need to cost you. I mean, sometimes over delivering is also providing the extra, like you said, you know, writing this personal card. You know, hey, I'm Julian, and I created your delivery. You know, I mean, these additional unexpected things which happens in this relationship. This also contributes to this overall delivering experience. It's not that I buy a liter of Coke and you give me a liter and another 10%, yeah? But I buy this liter of Coke and yeah, you add a smile and a thank you and maybe call me later and, hey, did you really enjoy the Coke? No, I don't. I don't drink Coke, but...
Thank you notes. Bill, are you trying to suggest that people send thank you notes?
We have started doing this, and like I'll send like a vendor or somebody a card about once a week randomly. They don't know why it's coming or anything. And the positive response that we have gotten back from those vendors, like, oh my God, that was like so great that you sent that. Like, it just made everyone feel so good. You guys are awesome. We love working with you. And it just builds this positive relationship. And like, then you can just ride that for like months. You know, I've had people just like repeatedly come back to me like, it was so cool that you wrote a note to her at their company. You know, it has a huge impact anymore, because text, email, it's all become noise. And now the handwritten message has become the new positive medium.
And it doesn't cost you. It doesn't cost you anything. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, a stamp.
Peanuts. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, back to when I ran a soccer company, I used to have postcards, and anyone who spent over $1,000, whether I sold the job or not, I wrote them a handwritten postcard. So depending on the month, it was a couple of them, big months, it was a lot of them. And I would say, if I can ever do something personally for you, here's my extension. And I had a guy call me one time who was not my job. He said, hey, I'm the coach of this team. And you said, if there's anything you can do personally for me, to call you. I'm thinking, holy shit, someone's taking me up on this offer. And then I was wondering what he was going to ask for. But no, he said, I need another set of jerseys. Can you hook me up? And I said, absolutely. I gave him a discount, and it worked brilliantly, right? It's the little things that mean everything. One of the things that I do is I grab these little $5 coffee cards from Starbucks. I get them from corporate services. I buy them 50 at a time, and it just says winning on them. And you send that out and say, you know, because I speak to people all over the world, hey, I can't take you for a cup of coffee, but please have a cup of coffee on me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Those are the little things of building your relationships over time, so that when you need the benefit of the doubt, guess what? It comes back to you in spades, right? I would laugh. I would take my college professors to lunch. I wouldn't actually buy them lunch. I just invite them to the D hall with me. And because I wanted them to know my name. So when they graded my paper, they were like, oh, that Jerry, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. It worked out pretty well for me. Those are the little things that you think about. Don't really have over the top.
Before we started the call, we had a small chat, and I was telling you that we spend a couple of months in New Zealand next year because we want to send our kids into English-speaking school. And you said, yeah, we in the US, we also have English-speaking schools. And I said, yes, but I reached out to many schools in the US, you know, I hardly got any response. Yeah. I mean, it's like a black hole, you know, I mean, hey, and then I sent an email, and I just found it here. I sent an email to a school in New Zealand. Hey, Sebastian, lovely to receive your email. And what exciting plans you have to come to New Zealand and engage in our education experience. And I just thought, oh my God, I'm in love, you know? I mean, yes, I want that my kids engage in an education experience. Yeah. I mean, the first, I mean, it's also client customer relationship, you know, the first touch point was always already amazing. Yeah? And this is what we need to create, you know, we need to create these experiences with our customers.
You know, I think that's a great call out, Sebastian. if anyone has any questions, you can throw them in the chat, but I'm going to close us up here. I love talking about relationships because I think it's at the heart of it. One of my good friends, Pablo Gonzalez, always is talking about community. Community is the new business development. How do you continue to cultivate and grow communities? Because word of mouth is the most powerful form of marketing. And if you're doing it right, and I think about like in all of our thinking in this episode, I just keep on coming back to, you have to engineer the customer experience.
Mhm.
You can't leave that to chance.
No.
And you need to, as a leader, articulate very clearly, here's what we want our customers to be thinking at the end of the experience. And then you just work backwards of like, well, yes, of course, when I answer the phone, I'm going to be delightful. And you should smile before you answer the phone, because then that releases chemicals into your brain that makes you happier and sound, bubblier. Imagine picking up the phone and being like, hello, Proven Chaos. I mean, it'd be horrible. No one would want to talk to me. I mean, no one really wants to talk to me anyway, but that would make it really hard to talk to people. And so, I think if we as leaders can give a clear picture to all of our people in the organization, here's what it means to be involved with Proven Chaos. Here's what it means to be involved with Seal Shield. Here's what it means. And then we just arm all of our people with the resources. Do you have the tools, time, and training to be successful in delivering on that mission? And if you don't, then, we have to give our people those tools, time, and training.
Exactly.
But, relationships aren't that hard. I always come back to my first value is love your people and treat them as whole people. I remind myself of that every single day, multiple times a day.
It doesn't cost you anything. I run large development programs, and we also do questionnaires with employees and check what is their biggest pain point. And the biggest pain point for them is to get recognition, for their work, and as a business leader, this doesn't cost you anything. Yeah. To say, hey, great job, thank you very much. Or just ask them, hey, how's your family doing? What's happening? Yeah. Just show honest interest. Yeah.
And
recognize them.
I think the one piece that I will just add to that, because this has been like really on my mind, is intention matters. If it's a program that you're going through the motions on and it's not sincere, it doesn't come from a place of caring or authenticity, then it doesn't matter. You might as well not do it. In fact, it probably pisses people off, because if you're the asshole in the business and you're the guy woohoo giving the awards away and woohooing people are gonna be like, but that guy's the asshole like 363 other days of the year. And so like the 2 days at the year-end conference, that doesn't work. And so, bringing the genuine authenticity to that intention matters. And I think it's now more than ever, we're seeing it. People are expecting it. And that whole notion of like having clear vision and values inside of a company it's everything that we're working on. So we will thank you, Sebastian, for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah, I think for me, it's all about this call to action, right? Here's the mission that I'm on, which is to positively impact 5 million people in the next 5 years through better business. I'm 1 year down. So now I'm starting to get a little nervous, which is why I need your help. And so whether it is liking posts, or subscribing, letting other people know about what it is that we're up to, we are always better together. And I think that's super important, elevating all of our ability to lead better, to lead with conscious intention, and to leave people in better places than when we found them. That's what all a good leader does. And so if you'll help me, I would really appreciate you helping spread the message of what we're doing and what we're trying to build here. Invite people on, tell them to come visit with us. They can be part of the mission too, which will be super fun. So next week, I will not be here. I'm taking a week off. I'm going to be stuffing my face with turkey because it is Thanksgiving here in the United States. But I want you to know that I am grateful for all of you. So will be off. The week after that, we have Kyle Gillette. He is the author of the SAGE Leadership Framework. I'm a big believer, if you've been around me at any time, I love frameworks and models because they're repeatable, scalable, and they bring predictable results. And he has a unique take on what leadership means. And so I think it'll be really fun to visit with him, have him share his insights and his model, and we'll kick the tires on it and see what we can take away from his experience with us here on the show. So thanks again, Sebastian, and hopefully you guys all have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on December 1st.